Welcome to Be in the Garden. Be in nature. I trust you're well. I certainly am. My name is Tossie and welcome. If you're just finding me for the first time, then I encourage you to stop by because this is a family friendly channel about gardening and exercise and free air and doing all projects in the garden to help you create a safe space for yourself and your family to engage with nature and to be well through all the natural things that nature has to offer. So, if you've not been here before, I encourage you to stay, to subscribe, and to share this friendly channel with family and friends. Also, think about giving me a thumbs up. It really does help. As they say, the algorithms. That's not a word I used to say very often before, but I'm hearing it a lot. So please do, the thumbs up will be so helpful to help push this channel out so that other people get the experience of this family-friendly channel and can also see what I get up to in my garden. That was a bit of an introduction, I know. You're welcome if you've not been here before, and if you're returning, of course you're welcome back. What am I going to be doing today in the garden? The purpose of today's video is really just to show you around the garden and see what is coming back awake after the dormant winter season. So that's the purpose of this particular video. Stay tuned because I'm going to just take you on a stroll along my garden. Let's call it walk and talk, or maybe talk and walk. Let's just see what's happening in the gardens. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. I have some window boxes here. I planted it with lots and lots and lots of comfrey. Comfrey is actually a medicinal plant and they come in lots of different forms. But in these window boxes that I have here, I planted the base with comfrey and I also put lots of different bulbs. So the bulbs are starting to shoot through. We've got crocuses mostly in here, but look at the comfrey. Look at her. Isn't that splendid? These little bell-shaped flowers that are so enticing to the bees when they come in at this time of year. And you can just see in there, it's quite beautiful. One of the first flowers again that I find in my garden. So I've got some little window boxes here, and these ones are the pink colour, but the comfrey come in all different types. I've got some here and they're more yellow, and the pale yellows in colour as well. So what else have I got in the garden? The hedge I was standing in front of as I gave the introduction to here is a laurel, and you can see at the time of filming, actually it's literally the last couple of days in February, and by the time this goes out it'll be the first few days in March. And you can see here some floral aspects of this hedge as well. I love the laurel. Why? Because it really needs very little attention. The leaves are quite broad and definitely very glossy, and they're evergreen, so they last throughout the seasons. Although sometimes in the late autumn, winter time, some of the leaves that are tucked behind the plant may become a little discoloured, as we can see behind here. But for the most part, this is a fabulous hedge if anybody's thinking of creating a boundary, space, some privacy. That's the laurel. Just beneath the laurel, I have got lots of Pyrocanthus, and they need little attention as well. I do love having them in the garden because every year they just bounce back. They're not at their best just now, but as I said, we're taking a stroll and a walk and talk around the garden to see what's happening. So as I said, it's end of February, and the frost that we had recently actually has caused these to die back significantly, but they will bounce back in due course. I've also got here the poppy, and the foliage is fantastic. So the foliage is coming through already. The flowers itself, they're not even beginning to put on the huge heads, but I'll be sure to come back here and show you what's happening. This tree here, the Pinus, I absolutely love. Let's just get a little bit closer. I love the details in this trunk. Look at that. And that's the beauty of nature, really. Sometimes we just walk past things and we don't realise just how much beauty there is in things that appear to be so simple. The branches of the Betulus are just beginning at the tips to show a tiny dot of green where the new leaves will emerge from. I've got quite a long hedge of these actually, and some of the Betulus are actually a little bit further ahead than others. I'll be sure to show you one that is a little further ahead. So can you see it's the same tree, or rather I should say the same species and cultivar, but this one is a little further along, and look at the detail of the leaf as it starts to emerge. It looks like, look at the detail. It looks like origami, you know, like folded crepe paper, and it just bursts out of these bud-like structures here. Look at the colours, look at the patterns, look at what nature gives us. Beneath that, I have the Euronymous, and you can just about tell the new shoots. Can you see that? The slightly more yellow colour, they're coming through. And beneath that, I have the lavender. In November of every year, I really cut these back hard. I know I left it a little bit late this year, but you can see from here the old leaves are the sort of greyish colour ones, and the ones that have come new for the year are the ones that are greener in colour. So often with the lavender, I cut it hard in November, winter time, and then you can see the new shoots that are coming up here, the lighter green ones, and then it will continue to grow until the buds arrive. What else do we have growing in the garden? So this is Primulas. These are Primulas, and they grow back year after year after year. Fantastic. Definitely a cost-effective plant. If you're thinking of, you know, creating your own garden, you plant them once and they actually reseed and spread and grow and grow. This one here is the liquid amber, and you saw her gorgeous red leaves in the autumn. But now, what do they look like? Not much at this moment. It's not offering much at this moment, but absolutely in a few weeks' time, as the weather mellows even more, you will see the beginnings of the leaves beginning to emerge from this tree. Behind is the wisteria, and only just you can start to make out the buds on the wisteria. The branches look very dry. I do plan to sort of prune this back a little bit, the dead branches and twigs, but as it looks at the moment, you can see it doesn't look like too much at all actually, but we have got some of the buds just beginning to swell and get bigger around the wisteria. What else do we have here? We've got the Jasmin. Jasmin clotted cream. You can see the life just beginning again. The green stems and the beginnings of these red buds. The leaves on this one are green, and the flowers are tiny cream colour. You can see I need to sort of, cut back this a little. There are lots and lots of dead branches and twigs in this hedge here. But this is a climbing plant, the Jasmin, and even just by scrunching that, a lot of the old twigs are breaking off and I can put them into the compost. But I might prune that back slightly. It's a lot to do, as you can see. So I'll probably use just some shears or a hedge trimmer and cut that back and make use of the old trimmings. We've got different crocuses, and the bees have loved coming here. And I've just got these thrown into the lawn in different places. And what's great about them, I'm just going to show you a bit of the lawn, and I don't use any chemicals or pesticides in my lawn. So yes, I have what somebody will refer to as weeds. I like to refer to them as wildflowers. I'm going to actually be doing a video on wildflowers, and I'm showing you what I do when I find them in my lawn. I certainly do not use any chemicals, any pesticides or herbicides or anything that will harm nature. I try as best I can to work with nature. Can you see in that lawn that where these wildflowers are actually growing is where there may have been spaces in the lawn. So all nature wants to do is fill the gaps. And what best to fill the gaps with than with what we tend to talk about as weeds. But actually you can see some moss in there and a range of different wildflowers, and really that's a good thing. I used to fuss over my lawn. I've spoken about this before. I used to really fuss over my lawn when I was first a gardener, but I really don't care much for lawns because of the time, the effort, and I much prefer that my lawn actually does have some wildflowers, because this is great. You can see the moss in between. This is great for birds sometimes, the moss, when they're looking for something to line their nests with. We've got some clover there. Clover is medicinal. Every part of this clover is edible. And so more and more, I'm really letting nature do what it needs to do. Absolutely, I do sometimes remove some of the wildflowers and try and replant them in different places. This, if you remember, is when I sowed my not poppies, these are the crocuses. Yes, with the crocuses, it was unbelievable. It was almost the very same day that I planted them that the squirrels all came out. Even before I was able to put the netting down, the squirrels came out. Oh my gosh. They took a lot of them out of the ground, and it was, yes, I know. I'm okay with wild nature, but I just planted a whole load of bulbs and they had literally dug them out and were sitting on the edges and just munching on these bulbs. So I did put some netting down, and I've been able to secure at least some of the crocuses, because that was a lot of work. Don't you remember seeing me in that video planting, was it 1,600 bulbs I planted in one day, and the squirrels just came and dug everything up? Not everything, I'm exaggerating. They came and dug a lot of the bulbs up. So I have got some of the crocuses, but hopefully they'll do even better next year. We've got the tulips here, but there is something coming and chewing these off as well. I suspect it's squirrels again, maybe. I'm not sure, but it's part of nature, I guess. So they're tiny at the moment, but in a few weeks, these will swell and give me some beautiful yellow tulips in this area here. Fantastic. That's what we're looking at this time of year as well. Tulips that are coming up out of the ground. And you can just make out what will be the tulip heads. They're small at the moment, but they will swell and get bigger. That's another wisteria that I have planted here. Look at nature at her best. I love it. This is actually, it's a lawn, but it has this railway sleeper. It's many, many years old. And in areas within the railway sleeper, we have nature just growing. You'll probably remember the video I did about putting the hellebore. I'm waiting to see the hostas pop up out in this space. At the moment, I've got some rogue daffodils or narcissi and alliums actually, but I'm going to wait for this area and hopefully the hostas will grow back successfully in this raised pot. Beneath this tree, I have a hedge that I'm going to be growing here. I'm looking forward to trimming this back actually. At the moment, you can see standing 3 yew trees, and I'm going to trim them down to encourage them to start knotting into each other. But I also planted the hellebore here, and this tree here is just magnificent, of course. Look, end of February, and for a couple of weeks now actually, this has been happening here. Beautiful. And this one here, the leaves remain red throughout the whole season. So beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, with the buds in this tree here. But one of my favorite trees as well at this time, well, they're all my favorites. You can't have favorites, but you know what I mean, is the magnolia. Let's see if I can show you the magnolia. And I've told you the story about this before, but it's definitely worth saying again. And I'm going to do a separate video on this one, I'm sure I am. But this tree here, this tree here, how can you not fall in love with this? How can you not? How can you not love this? I'm for sure planning on doing a whole video dedicated to this one tree here. And as I said, I have a bit of a story about this tree. It's a bit of a story about this tree and how one day when it was really very windy, the play trampoline, the children's trampoline, which was a really tall one, it was over, when you lay it on its side, it was probably 10 feet tall, fell down in the wind and nearly brought this tree to an end. I absolutely love this tree, as I love all of them in my garden. Here, when people say, where do you trim the branches off if you're trying to, increase the height of the branches? And really for me, I just trim them as close to the trunk as possible. And you can see how well it heals. You can see how well it heals. And that you can see that there are places where I have taken out branches as this tree has grown over the years. So when I first planted the tree, she was ever so tiny, ever so tiny, ever so tiny. But over the years, just gradually as it gets taller and taller, puts on height, I just remove some of the lower branches. And you can see I cut it as close to the trunk as possible. And it doesn't cause damage or hurt the plant. Hopefully it doesn't cause any rotting. and it recovers really quickly. So this magnolia, for sure, if the weather permits, I will come back and do a more detailed video on the magnolia, showing you how the blossoms grow and what it looks like in full bloom. Beneath the magnolia, I have where the banana plant is, and they are just underneath these polystyrenes being insulated from the cold for now. Moving along, I have the beginnings of the forsythia tree here with the very distinct yellow buds. So here in the UK, the forsythia, do you know how easy this is to plant? You quite literally just take a cutting, and now's a great time to do that. You can take a trimming, perhaps I'll do another video of that as well, where you take a cutting and you stick that into the soil. It's that easy. Just take a cutting, it can be about 10 inches long. You need to make sure that this part is towards the base, and you stick this, making sure that this is currently the area for the leaves and the buds to grow, but you just stick into some soil and you will grow a fresh plant from that. And that's why I say, gardening for me really is proof of abundance. Absolutely is. Beneath that, I have some more comfrey, the large version, and I have some apple trees. I call here my mini orchard, as you can see back here, and I've got a variety of different apple trees growing along here. It's a good idea to prune them at this time of year in places, just to try and keep that central bit open to allow airflow. But looking closely at the buds of this one, they definitely appear really very dry, but this is exactly what it should be doing at this time. The buds are just beginning, let's see if I can get that in focus, just beginning to sort of swell and give the indication that the growth is about to start. Beneath the apple tree, I have some blueberries, and there's a lot of sign that these blueberry bushes will do well this year. I certainly hope they will. I've put the blueberries in containers only because I've tried putting them in the ground before, just using the regular soil compost that I have in my garden. But I have to be honest that they've often struggled, and it's always said that blueberries do better in ericaceous or acidic soil. I've accepted that, and I believe that to be the case, because anytime I've tried to grow blueberries in my regular soil, they've not done particularly well. So these are in pots so that I can control the soil that goes in them, and they're doing incredibly well. They've put on a lot of growth since we enjoyed them all last year, and these are the blueberries. So I have several of these, and you can never have too many. This particular one is a good idea to plant lots of different varieties, or different species, as they say, different varieties. So this one you can see is just slightly further along, but they've put on quite a lot of growth. I'm happy about that. So that's what you see in the 4 pots here. Again, lots of comfrey here. Another apple tree. Got some stacks of wood here from some trees that I've cut back in over the year. I've got some new hedges growing here. We've got the hellebore mixed in with some more comfrey, and let's see if I lift up one of their heads. We've got the purple hellebore here, and definitely a delight for the bees. They come in and make the most of these plants at this time of year. And you see them here where I cut back the leaves to expose these trumpet bell-like flowers to expose them. We've got the silver birch, which I planted in a recent video. Hey, that's me. Welcome. And the silver birch again here. The ground looks sparse almost because we are still sort of just emerging from the winter. But here's another magnolia. This one is called Magnolia stellata. This one has white flowers, and the flowers almost look like shredded ribbons. Behind that, I have camellia. And again, that's a winter flowering plant with the sort of rose looking. They sort of remind me of roses in terms of their form, their shape. And the ones here are the white ones. And again, the leaves here are glossy. This plant is said to do very well in ericaceous soil, but actually I have it planted in just my regular soil and it always performs year after year. So I don't seem to have a problem with this plant. And that one there is the camellia. And look at the buds. They just pop out and then give you this sort of rose-like form. I have another hellebore. I have some more poppies putting on their foliage. And then I have this cherry tree, and I managed to damage it a few seasons ago, but it's still giving me the buds. And these are what the cherries start looking out like, clusters. I move along the plant itself, the tree, and it just comes up with sort of clusters of what will become cherries. Clusters. Yes, they all cluster together. And again, I have another hedge back here. I have different herbs back here. I've actually got some fennel, and this is bronze fennel. I've got some celery growing down here as well. That's that there. I have a grape. I've got a grapevine here, and I definitely need to sort of sort this out. The branches always look very dry with grape vines anyway, but it's amazing just how much life there is still in here. And a bit like the forsythia, very much with the grapes, again, you can take a cutting and just stick that in the soil and you'll grow yourself a grape vine. It really is that simple. Isn't nature incredible? Over here, can you spot the rhubarb? Can you see the rhubarb? Only just beginning to poke through the soil. There we go. That's just the beginners of the rhubarb. Very tiny at the moment, but it's a great sign after the dormant season that they are growing back as well. And behind the rhubarb, I have raspberries. These are some raspberry canes. So many different varieties of raspberries back here. And you can see here, lots of shoots growing. Oh, and some more blossoms. Okay, so more blossoms here, and these are my apricots. I love what these blossoms look like. Absolutely love them. This is still a relatively young tree at the moment, but I do manage to get some blossoms and some apricots from her. Look at the colour of this one here. We've got some plums on this side, some different colour blossoms. Can you see that? Oops, let's see if I'm reaching up and you've got different plums here. I've also got growing here, these green leaves are from the quince. If you're not familiar with quince, they are sort of shaped somewhere between a pear and an apple, and possibly the size of a large pear or a large apple. And they grow quite easily here. And look at what the almond tree is producing already, in full blossom, in full bloom. This is the almond tree. The squirrels know it's here, so I do have to compete with the squirrels. But they do grow, and I do absolutely get almonds. Almonds or almonds? How do you pronounce it? Almonds or almonds? Beautiful, right? And here, growing through the almond tree, I have goji berries. And if you can follow that train down, so it's grown up there, but it actually, you just trace that back down, down, down. That's the goji berry just here. And it's actually quite prolific. It's actually quite prolific. This is here with the tiny little leaves. I also have globe artichoke. In the pond here, I have been able to spot, and I'm not sure if I can show that to you, but I have spotted the toad eggs. So that's joyful, really, really joyful. In the pond here, I'm not sure I'm able to show that to you because of the glare, but the pond, I would have tried to remove some of the duckweed on top, but alas, it's inhabited with the wildlife, and I will have to leave that in situ and just watch as nature continues to do her magic. I want to say to you, thank you so much for joining me on this video. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a seat and maybe I'll have a little chat with you. Ooh, it's a little chilly, but thank you so much for joining me in my garden. It's drizzling, so it's about to start raining. But this video here, oh, there's a bee that's just come to join me. Did you see that in the picture? Oh, wow. Oh, and she's looking for water, you see. I wonder if I can bring you in to see this. There she is. She's just drinking from the edge of her, as if on cue. She just came, and there she is, just on the edge of an old tray that has some water, and she's just coming in to drink. Oh, it's so important that we take care of nature. And she's still sipping out of the bowl. That's beautiful. I wanted to say to you, to each and every single one of you, thank you so, so much. This community is growing. I know that there are so many people out there, and I'm one of them, who sometimes find change different and difficult and challenging. And so just by coming out in the garden today, what I've been able to do is see that from the darkness and the winter and the cold and those conditions, that things are different now. Am I even in shot? I'm not sure. Can I check that I am in shot? I hope I am. It's difficult. Change is not always easy. But just as the seasons change and each season brings its own different beauty, I hope that we can find a way to embrace change. Sometimes change happens because it just needs to. And if left to our own devices, we might never make change in our lives. So sometimes change happens because it's just a way to get us to move out of our comfort zones and into a new place. What I know for sure is that when it seems that one door closes, it certainly is the opportunity for another door to open. Sometimes we do need to let go of what we're familiar with to allow us to be able to embrace something that is different. And the different might be what we need. It's difficult sometimes, but if we try to somehow accept, as in the seasons in the gardening, I see it so much in gardening, and so I'm trying to mimic what nature does. I'm trying to accept what nature has to offer, that sometimes the seasons shift into another gear and shift into another place. So to any one of us, because we are a community, be mindful that sometimes it can be difficult changing from one season or one situation into another. So we do need to be mindful about that and allow us the time and the grace and the kindness to evolve with change. So I think just going through that garden, what that meant to me, it was just a reassurance that seasons come and go, and that when an opportunity appears to not be there anymore, maybe it's just dormant and under the ground, just waiting for the right conditions to come back up. But absolutely, it's been a joyful walk and talk through the garden, because I've seen so many new plants and new bulbs, and in the weeks to come they will grow and produce fruits in some cases. So if you're able to get out into the garden, or if you have a small balcony, maybe you can consider planting something on the balcony, or meeting up with friends and just walking along the canals. If you're able to get out in nature, I love being out in nature, and you'll find for you whether nature is something you're able to be a part of. But what I'm hoping to grow on this channel is a community of like-minded people who want to embrace nature and all the benefits it has to offer. It's drizzling, and as much as I love nature, and I do, if I sit out here for too long, I'm likely to get a cold or something, so I won't be doing that. But as I've been talking to you amazing people, please, if you've enjoyed this video, that thumbs up really does help, but it really does support me. It really, really does. So please, that thumbs up if you can. Leave me a comment. I've engaged with so many of you in recent weeks, and I really thank you for that. Leave me a comment. But as I'm talking to you, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscription. Hit that subscription notification bell as well, so that every time I upload a video, you absolutely will be able to join this community and watch it along. So as I've been talking to you, I keep saying this, don't I? But as I've been talking to you, my eyes have seen a beautiful climbing plant that I just have to show you before we end. And I planted this actually many years ago, but it has been growing. It took its time. So just as I've been saying, it took its time, but now the blossoms are incredible. It's actually a clematis, a climbing clematis, but this is an evergreen clematis, and I know it's called apple blossom from memory. It's called apple blossom, and the blossoms are out. I must close with this at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Subscribe if you haven't already, the thumbs up if you haven't already, and those of you who are communicating with me, I thank you. I'm so grateful, and I appreciate love, not appreciate, appreciate love. I appreciate each and every one of you. I just said appreciate. Let's do that again. I appreciate love, each and every single one of you. I appreciate love. I do appreciate, but I prefer to try and use the words of love each and every one of you. Until my next video, enjoy. But out of this video, because I'm going to show you that clematis, and I'll see you in my next one. Take care now. Keep well. It's just starting to rain, so I won't be out here for long. But here we have the clematis. These are the leaves, the long sort of drop, the spear shape, and then these are the flowers. I can't quite reach all the way up to it, but you can just about make out what they are. There's a lot of ivy that grows back here, but the clematis, is growing all the way up, trying to reach the sky, and I just thought I'd leave you with this. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video.